What's up, guys? Hello friends, today I am going to tell you a terrifying, spine-chilling ghost story that will make you question your own reality. Seriously, this one is entirely messed up. Have you ever looked through your old phone files? Found an old photo you don't remember taking? Or maybe, a voicemail you don't remember receiving? Today's story dives deep into that exact rabbit hole. It's a true style account of a bloke who found something buried in his phone's digital archives. Something sketchy, something bloody terrifying. So, do me a favor. Turn off the lights, put your headphones on, lock your doors, and if your phone starts ringing during this video, whatever you do, don't answer it. Let's get into the story. Here is a highly detailed, cinematic, and atmospheric script designed for a 50 to 60 minute YouTube video. A quick note on runtime: to stretch this to a full 50 to 60 minutes, you must read this at a slow, deliberate, and mysterious pace. Utilize long pauses, eerie background music swells, and B-roll footage. Let the audio cues and visual cues dictate moments of silence where the audience just listens to rain, static, or footsteps for 10 to 15 seconds at a time. YouTube intro. Visual. The YouTuber is sitting in a dimly lit room, illuminated only by a monitor's glow or a single moody neon light. The background music is a low, ominous synth drone. Narrator, looking directly at the camera. What's up, guys? Hello friends, today I am going to tell you a terrifying, spine-chilling ghost story that will make you question your own reality. Seriously, this one is entirely messed up. Have you ever looked through your old phone files? Found an old photo you don't remember taking? Or maybe, a voicemail you don't remember receiving? Today's story dives deep into that exact rabbit hole. It's a true style account of a bloke who found something buried in his phone's digital archives. Something sketchy, something bloody terrifying. So, do me a favor. Turn off the lights, put your headphones on, lock your doors, and if your phone starts ringing during this video, whatever you do, don't answer it. Let's get into the story. Visual. Screen cuts to black. The sound of heavy rain pouring against a window. A low rumble of thunder. Text on screen. The voicemail fades in and out slowly. ACT1, the digital graveyard, audio cue. Lo-fi ambient music starts playing softly. The sound of a mouse clicking and a keyboard typing. Narrator, voiceover, speaking slowly and mysteriously. It was a dreary, pissing down rain kind of Tuesday in Seattle. The kind of night where the fog rolls off the Puget Sound and wraps around the apartment buildings like a wet blanket. Liam, a 26-year-old freelance graphic designer, was pulling an all-nighter. He was just a regular guy, trying to clear out some cloud storage because Apple kept hounding him that his iCloud was full. We've all been there, right? Liam was sitting in his dimly lit flat, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee, mindlessly deleting gigabytes of old memes, blurry concert videos, and useless screenshots. He was deep into the digital graveyard of his past, scrolling back to files from 3, maybe 4 years ago. That's when he saw it. Nestled inside a folder labeled MISC Backup 2021, there was a single audio file. An exported voicemail. It was labeled simply, VM_incoming_unknown, M4A. Liam frowned. He didn't usually save voicemails unless they were super important, like a job offer or a drunk, rambling message from a mate. Curious, he hovered his cursor over the file and double-clicked. At first, nothing, just the low hiss of digital static. Liam turned up the volume on his headphones, thinking the audio was just corrupted. Hello? Liam whispered to himself, almost as if the file could hear him. Then, the static shifted. It sounded wet, heavy, like someone breathing right into the microphone. In, out, in, out. The breathing was ragged, panicked. It sounded legit terrifying, like whoever was on the other end was hiding from someone, or something. Liam felt a cold chill creep up his spine. He tried to hit pause, but his hand froze hovering over the mouse. Then, the voice spoke. It was barely a whisper, distorted by static, but the words were clear enough. Don't leave me here. Liam violently ripped his headphones off, throwing them onto the desk. He scrambled backward, his rolling chair slamming into his bed frame. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. What the hell was that? Was it a prank? Some edgy horror podcast audio he had downloaded and forgotten about? He stood there, breathing heavily, staring at the screen. He needed to know where the file came from. He right-clicked the audio file and opened its properties. He checked the original source metadata. When he read the original sender's phone number, all the blood drained from his face. The number that had left the voicemail was his own number. It is impossible to leave a voicemail for yourself from the exact same number, at the exact same time. It's just not how telecom networks work. Liam tried to rationalize it. Spam callers spoof numbers all the time, right? Scammers use tech to make it look like your own number is calling you. It had to be a glitch. A sketchy prank. But that scream, that raw, visceral scream, it didn't sound like a prank. It sounded like someone dying. For the next 3 days, Liam couldn't focus on his work. He ghosted his clients. He ignored texts from his mates. He was going down a deep, dark rabbit hole. He started examining the file's timestamp. The voicemail was left on October 14, 2021, at 11:42 p.m. Visual cue. Slow zoom on a calendar or a digital clock glitching to 11:42 p.m. Narrator. October 14, 2021. Liam stared at the date, feeling a deep, uncomfortable knot form in his stomach. Why was that date so familiar? He dug through his old Google Calendar. He checked his Facebook timeline. And then, it hit him. October 14, 2021, was the night of the crash. 3 years ago, Liam had been driving back from a camping trip in the Cascade Mountains. It had been pouring rain. A deer had jumped out into the middle of Route 9. Liam swerved, lost control of his Honda Civic, and rolled down a steep embankment into the dense, dark woods. It was a miracle he survived. In fact, it was bizarre. The car was totaled, wrapped around a massive pine tree like an aluminum can. But Liam had woken up sitting in the driver's seat, completely unharmed. No broken bones, not even a scratch, just a massive headache and a missing block of memory. He had climbed out, hiked up to the road, and flagged down a passing trucker. He had always considered himself the luckiest bloke alive. But now, looking at the timestamp, 11:42 p.m., that was the exact time the police report estimated his car went off the road. How could he have left a voicemail for himself while he was unconscious in a wrecked car? Liam needed help. He couldn't deal with this alone. He exported the file to a flash drive and headed across town to meet his friend, Chloe. Chloe was a sound engineer. She worked at a local indie recording studio and knew audio software better than anyone. She was the kind of person who didn't believe in ghosts, demons, or the supernatural. To her, everything was just data. When Liam arrived at the studio, he looked like absolute garbage. Pale skin, dark bags under his eyes. He handed Chloe the flash drive. "Mate, you look like you've seen a ghost," Chloe joked, plugging the drive into her Mac. "Just listen to it, Chloe. Tell me if it's faked," Liam replied, his voice shaking. Chloe put on her heavy-duty studio headphones and hit play. Liam watched her face. He saw the exact moment the scream hit her ears. Chloe flinched, her eyes widening in genuine shock. She pulled one earphone off and looked at Liam. "Christ, Liam, what kind of sick snuff movie did you rip this from?" "I didn't," Liam said quietly. "It came from my own phone. 3 years ago." Chloe frowned, her skepticism kicking back in. She turned to her dual monitors and loaded the audio file into a spectral analysis program. This software breaks down sound into visual heat maps, showing frequencies the human ear can't easily pick up. Chloe isolated the vocals. She stripped away the digital static. "There's a lot of background noise hiding under the static," she muttered, typing rapidly. "Let me boost the low-end frequencies and compress the mid-tones." She hit play again, but this time, the audio was played through the studio's massive surround sound speakers. Liam's breath hitched. It was the sound of a car. A wrecked car. He could hear the rain hitting the shattered windshield. He could hear the faint, rhythmic ding, 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 of a car door left open. But that wasn't the worst part. Chloe paused the track right before the scream. She zoomed in on a tiny anomaly in the visual waveform. Look at this, she said, pointing a pen at the screen. Right before the scream. There's a sub-frequency here. It's too low for us to hear normally, but it's there. I'm going to pitch it up. She adjusted a few dials and pressed the spacebar. Through the massive speakers, beneath the sound of rain, beneath the heavy breathing, came a voice. It wasn't distorted by static. It was clear, dead clear. It was Liam's own voice, sobbing. I'm dead. Oh God, I'm dead. He took my face. He took my face. Audio cue. Total silence in the video for 5 seconds. Let the tension breathe. Liam felt his knees go weak. He had to grab the edge of Chloe's desk to stop himself from collapsing. That was his voice. But he didn't remember saying it. He didn't remember any of it. Chloe was staring at the screen, her hands trembling. The skeptical, logical sound engineer was gone. She slowly turned to Liam, her face completely pale. Liam, she whispered, who took your face? Before Liam could answer, the lights in the recording studio flickered violently. And then, Liam's cell phone, sitting on the desk between them, lit up and began to vibrate. Liam looked down. The caller ID on the screen read, Liam, my number. Chloe backed away from the desk, terrified. Don't answer it, she pleaded. Liam, I'm serious, do not pick that up. But Liam was paralyzed. A sick, morbid curiosity took over his body. His hand reached out, moving almost on its own. He picked up the phone, swiped the green button, and slowly brought the phone to his ear. Hello? Liam whispered. For a moment there was just the sound of heavy, wet breathing. Then, a voice replied. A voice that sounded exactly like his own, but hollow, empty. Things escalated rapidly after that night at the studio. Chloe refused to see Liam. She blocked his number, terrified of whatever supernatural or psychological nightmare he had dragged her into. Liam was completely alone, and his apartment, his safe space, no longer felt safe. He started suffering from intense paranoia. He would wake up in the dead of night at exactly 3:33 a.m., feeling an oppressive, suffocating weight on his chest. Sleep paralysis, he told himself. Just stress. But while he lay frozen in his bed, unable to move a muscle, he would see a silhouette standing in the corner of his bedroom. A tall, shadowy figure, completely dripping wet, as if it had just crawled out of a river. The smell of copper, wet soil, and gasoline permeated the room. His smart home devices started glitching. His Alexa would randomly turn on in the middle of the day and play the sound of police sirens. His television would turn itself on, displaying nothing but harsh black and white static. But the most terrifying thing was the mirrors. Liam started avoiding reflections. When he brushed his teeth, he would keep his eyes glued to the sink. Because a few days prior, he had looked up into the bathroom mirror, and his reflection hadn't looked back. He had raised his left hand, but the reflection just stood there, staring at him with dead, soulless eyes. A sinister, knowing smirk slowly stretched across the reflection's face, a smile that Liam wasn't making. He was losing his mind. The line between reality and madness was blurring. He was starting to question his own identity. What if? A dark thought crept into his brain. What if I didn't survive that crash? If he died in the woods on Route 9, then who, or what, walked out of those woods and took over his life? He couldn't take it anymore. Sitting in his apartment, waiting to go insane, wasn't an option. He had to go back. He had to go back to the source. The crash site. It was nearing midnight when Liam drove his rental car up the winding, treacherous curves of Route 9. The weather was a carbon copy of the night of his crash. Heavy, blinding rain, thick fog rolling through the massive, ancient pine trees of the Pacific Northwest. There were no streetlights out here. Just the bright high beams of his car piercing the absolute darkness. Liam gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. His GPS had lost signal miles ago, but he didn't need it. His body seemed to know exactly where to go. Muscle memory. Or maybe something darker was pulling him back. He pulled over on the shoulder near mile marker 42. This was the spot. Liam stepped out into the freezing rain, holding a heavy-duty flashlight. The wind howled through the trees, sounding almost like human voices whispering in the dark. He walked to the edge of the guardrail. It was still bent and rusted in the exact spot where his car had smashed through it 3 years ago. He climbed over the rail and began the steep, slippery descent down into the ravine. The mud sucked at his boots. Briars tore at his jeans. It was incredibly dark. The forest felt unnaturally quiet here. No crickets. No owls. Even the sound of the rain seemed muffled, like he had stepped into a vacuum. At the bottom of the ravine, surrounded by jagged rocks and twisted tree roots, he found it. The wreckage had been cleared away by the insurance company years ago, but the scars on the land remained. A massive pine tree had a huge chunk of bark missing where the car had impacted. Shards of rusted metal and glittering safety glass were still half buried in the mud. Liam stood in the center of the crash site. He felt completely hollow. "I'm here," Liam screamed into the darkness, his voice cracking. "What do you want from me?" Silence. Just the wind. He dropped to his knees in the mud, feeling like an absolute fool. There was nothing here. He was just a crazy guy having a mental breakdown in the woods. But then, he saw something half buried under a thick layer of wet dead leaves. It was metallic, rectangular. Liam dug his freezing fingers into the mud and pulled it out. It was a cell phone. An old, cracked, waterlogged iPhone. His old iPhone, the one he supposedly lost in the crash. Liam stared at it. It was covered in grime, the screen shattered into a spiderweb of glass. It shouldn't even work. It had been buried in the wet earth for 3 years. But as Liam held it in his trembling hands, the cracked screen suddenly lit up. The dead phone was ringing. Liam looked down. The caller ID on the cracked screen read, "Home." His breath plumed in the freezing air. He had no service out here. The phone had no battery. It was physically impossible, yet, it vibrated violently in his palm. Slowly, agonizingly, Liam pressed the cracked green button. He raised the filthy, muddy phone to his ear. "Who is this?" Liam whispered, tears mixing with the rain on his face. The voice on the other end was crystal clear. It was his own voice. But it didn't sound like a ghost. It sounded completely calm, casual, like it was sitting in Liam's warm apartment back in Seattle. "Hey mate," the voice said. "It's freezing out there, isn't it?" Liam's heart stopped. "What are you?" The voice on the other end chuckled. A dry, humorless sound. "I think you know. You've known since the moment you woke up in that car 3 years ago without a single scratch. You felt it. The emptiness. You're not real," Liam cried, gripping his head. "I'm Liam. I survived. Did you?" the voice replied smoothly. "Think about it, mate. Think about how the shadows in your apartment look. Think about the mirror. You don't belong here anymore. You belong down there in the mud." "No. I took your place," the entity said softly. "I climbed out of that ravine while your real body was bleeding out in the driver's seat. I took your life. I took your job. I took your face. And I've been doing a bloody good job at it, haven't I?" Liam's mind fractured. The ultimate, horrifying realization crashed over him like a tidal wave. He wasn't the victim. He was the monster. He was the entity. A mimic. A doppelganger born from the trauma and dark energy of the woods. He had lived the last 3 years genuinely believing he was Liam, suppressing the memory of what he truly was. "So where is the real Liam?" The thing in the mud, the mimic, whispered into the phone. "He's right here," the voice on the phone replied from the comfort of the apartment. "I finally managed to swap us back. Thanks to that voicemail. It was a bridge, an anchor. When you played it, you let me back in. And you sent yourself back to where you belong." The mimic looked down at its hands. In the beam of the flashlight, the flesh was beginning to melt. The illusion was fading. Its fingers were turning into long, shadowy, claw-like appendages. The human disguise was failing. "Don't leave me here," the mimic begged, its voice distorting, losing its human pitch. "Enjoy the dark," the real Liam said from the phone. "You left me in it for 3 years." The flashlight flickered and died, plunging the ravine into absolute, pitch-black darkness. The mimic dropped the phone. It fell to its knees in the mud. It tried to scream, a raw, guttural, agonizing scream of realization and horror. The police found a rental car abandoned on the side of Route 9 a few days later. They searched the woods, dogs and all, but they never found the driver. They just assumed the bloke got lost and was taken by the elements. But back in Seattle, Liam was seen a week later at a local coffee shop. His friends said he seemed different. Better, actually. He looked healthier. He didn't have bags under his eyes anymore. He laughed more. He seemed like he had a new lease on life. Chloe, the audio engineer, eventually unblocked him. She said she ran into him at a bar. She apologized for freaking out, but she noted that Liam looked at her like he hadn't seen her in 3 years. He hugged her like a man who had just returned from the dead. When Chloe asked him about that terrifying audio file, Liam just smiled a calm, peaceful smile. He told her he deleted it. He said it was just a bad memory, and he was finally moving on. So, friends, what do you think? Was the Liam who came back from the woods the real Liam, reclaiming his life after being trapped in some kind of purgatory? Or was it just another trick by the entity? A monster so good at playing human, it convinced even itself? The scariest part of this story isn't the ghosts or the monsters in the woods. The scariest part is the technology in our pockets. The digital footprints we leave behind. If you ever go scrolling through your old voice memos, or your hidden photo albums, and you find something you don't remember making, don't open it. Don't play it. You never know what might be waiting on the other side, looking for a way in. If you enjoyed tonight's story, do me a massive favor. Smash that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you never miss a horrifying tale, and leave a comment down below. Have you ever experienced a glitch in the Matrix with your phone? Let me know. Until next time, friends, stay safe, keep your doors locked, and sleep with one eye open. Good night.